Hello everyone and welcome back to another Minecraft update video for Minecraft 1.20.5. This is Snapshot 24W05A and we're going to jump straight ahead into the experimental features of 1.21 as a new block has been introduced to the game. It is known as the Vault block and it is the block that the trial key unlocks. One thing that you might notice about this is that it's had its texture updated. Yes, that's right, the bluish tint has been removed and this new colouring kind of reminds me of the new Tough blocks. Now some of you will already know what this block does because Mojang have dished out the details already, and of course we covered it in a video here on this channel. But of course I will bring you up to speed. This is a block that is found inside of the trial chamber and it is a solution to having loot shared among multiple players. Now if you missed it, do not worry because I'll give you the brief recap. This is a block found inside of the trial chambers and it's intended to be a solution for loot that can be distributed among multiple players. So here it is, the Vault block, and you'll find this where you used to find placeholder chests. So one of the problems with this is that all of the best loot tends to get nabbed up by the first player to arrive at the chest and nothing is left for future players that venture into the trial chamber. So with the new trial spawner blocks, we can earn trial keys over and over again by re-entering the trial chamber and taking on the challenge that they provide. If you conquer them, you can earn a trial key, and if you find a vault block, this can be used once per player to activate this thing and then get some loot from it. So now that I've activated this vault block, when we go over to it again, you'll see unfortunately nothing happens. But if another player were to come along, look at that, it opens up for them and then they can go ahead and get some loot. So where can we find these vault blocks inside of the trial chambers? Well, the very first room, the entrance room with the tree, you can actually find one up the top here. And in general, most rooms that have spawners also have at least one or two of these. And the way that you can tell them apart, not only by the different texture, is that the blocks that surround it are regular copper blocks. So for example, in this layout, we have 3 spawners and there's 2 vault blocks. In this room here, there's also just 3 spawners and 2 vault blocks. And I have managed to find a room that didn't have any vault blocks at all, although this was the only one in this structure. It just had 2 spawners. And this room where I first did some testing actually has more vault blocks than it does spawners. Anyway, it's fair to say that these things are fairly common and frequent, and you should find a bunch of them in a trial chamber. Now, as you saw a moment ago, this thing lights up when you approach it. It has a range for detecting the player of 4 blocks to light up. So if I edge forward here, eventually we hit that range, and it's slightly longer for when backing away. So you can actually take half a block back and it will still stay open. If you go any further, then it shuts off. Now, as you know, it'll only do this if it finds a player it hasn't yet rewarded. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a key, and then I'm going to back away. And when I return to pick up my loot, you can see it's not activating again. So when we bring my other account on, you'll see that it'll activate for it. If I am then the one that tries to use the key on it, nope, can't do that. Only the player that hasn't used it before can activate it. And as you'll see here, when I grab the data of the block, it actually keeps track of which players it has rewarded. And when you place one of these down in creative mode, it will have all the default values of a regular one. So with that, we can simulate getting loot out of this thing. And I'd like to point out that when you look into the block, you can actually see some of the loot that you're going to get spinning around. But the dealio is that all of this is temporary. Anyway, let's see what the animation is like, because I believe this experience isn't. It'll pop a few of those items out on top for you, which is really satisfying. And this was some testing that I did earlier. You can get between 2 and 6 items in total. And of course, some of those items are emeralds and even diamonds. But as it says here on the website, this loot table is temporary and will be completely revised as development continues. So I figured it was worth showing what this is like in its current state, just so that you can leave some feedback about this and share your thoughts and opinions on what the current loot is, as they are going to be changing it. Now the block has one other property that is really understated. It has a particle effect that sort of goes towards the block from where the player is, right? It goes to the mouth of the block. If I go into F5 and zoom in on the edit, you can probably see a few of these particle effects. They're very subtle, and I kind of feel like maybe they should make them a little more obvious. Now, you can't break this block and pick it up in survival, but you can break it. It will take a ridiculously long time. I appreciate the idea that you might want to remove one of these in your world, but I do think they could speed this up just a little bit. I mean, even 15 seconds is kind of obnoxious, and you can see so far, no progress whatsoever. And as you might suspect, the block is also immovable, and it's also indestructible, as you can see. Now, the technical details of this block are listed on the website, and one thing you can do is actually give it a custom loot table, as well as changing its activation range and deactivation range. You can also define which item in the game actually opens this block up, and you can even override the items that appear visually inside of the block. So for custom map makers, you could have something entirely different on the block than the reward. Now, my personal opinion on this block is that it's really well implemented. I love the design, the way you interact with it, and the loot pops out above it. The one issue I have is that I feel this is addressing a universal problem, but only applying it in the trial chambers. There are, of course, other structures in this game that have loot, some less desirable than others, but this could have been universally applied to these locations too. Then when you discover a woodland mansion or a jungle temple off in the distance, you can go there knowing that there'll be some loot for you. Although obtaining the keys to unlock those vault blocks, I'm not quite sure how that would work. Anyways, I think this would be really cool if it could be retroactively applied to some of Minecraft's older structures. So that's all of the 1.21 changes in this snapshot. We're now going to move to the 1.20.5 stuff, and a little reminder, if you're not subscribed to the channel and you want to stay informed about Minecraft's development, then hit that button down below. Okay, so we recently saw the introduction of a new compression algorithm for how the game stores chunks inside of region files. In this week's snapshot, there's now an option not to compress the data at all, so no compression, or alternatively, compression ID 127 will allow you to implement your own type of compression for region files. Potions have been modified so that default potions no longer store their MBT data on the item. So it's only when the defaults are changed by a custom potion that it'll actually attach that data to the potion. And the armor slots of entities have been unified. For example, the llama and the horse previously had their own armor slots. It is all listed here on the website, and it's called body armor item, and they've introduced a new body item drop chance. So this means that entities with this armor slot now have a drop chance built into it too. And the last of the technical changes is with the resource pack. A lot of stuff here related to shaders, some under the hood stuff that goes way over my head. I have no idea what they mean or why these changes are being undertaken, but hopefully they'll lead to some more support and better features for shaders in the future. But as of right now, that is it for this week's snapshot. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Thanks as always for supporting the channel. And this weekend, Saturday the 3rd, Hermitcraft Season 10 begins. You didn't hear it here first because we've all been talking about it on Twitter already. Anyways, put that one in your calendar. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.